Boy oh boy, so many things happen and so many secrets get revealed in this next issue of Superman. From Lois being this Superwoman to this new mysterious time trapper, things get infinitely more interesting. But this is AJ here at the Hero Informer, and let's get into it. So Lois Lane is still in between time itself, talking to a very peculiar individual, a hyper-evolved version of Doomsday known as the Time Trapper. And of course, as it sounds, the Time Trapper has power over time and space, meaning he froze his time right before Jimmy Olsen is about to get absolutely obliterated by the Radiant coming back and attacking them. But you see, this version of Doomsday isn't just attacking like the mindless beast Doomsday usually is known to be. No, this version here, this future version, is very intelligent and he has one main goal: to evolve and become stronger. But for whatever reason that is unrevealed to us now, he needs to die specifically by Superman's hand for that to occur. But Lois Lane even knows this herself, as currently she is now Superwoman, which we will get into this a little bit later and why this is. But she even goes on to say, "What do you want, Time Trapper? First you come to my husband Superman offering some kind of twisted deal, then he turns you down, and so you come to me." In which the Time Trapper goes on to reveal a little bit of the truth, but at the same time he is pretty much an unreliable narrator, meaning we don't fully know if what he's saying is the truth, if it's him lying for his own selfish goals, or anything else. But he goes on to tell Lois that a very dark future is on the horizon. In this, as they are now with absolute chaos and war going on, Superman losing control of his very powers is just a start. But the Time Trapper himself is the key to all of this, if only they will help him. But Lois Lane is a lot of things, and being naive is not one of them, as she rejects his offer, punching him in the face, telling him no. And of course, even though this Time Trapper here is, well, a different entity or seemingly than a normal Doomsday is, he's still technically a Doomsday, meaning he still harbors great rage. Him even going on to threaten Lois Lane saying, "You dare? Do you have any idea what I could do to you?" But once again, Lois calls him out on his bluff, saying, "You have all this power and control over time, and yet here you are, like some kind of time traveling devil offering us dreams in exchange for our souls." And that has made me realize something. You need us. Because if this Time Trapper was as powerful as it would seem, he would just do whatever he needs to do to ascend once more himself, instead of needing the help of Superman here in his present time. And so with that, seeing as he is getting nowhere with Lois here, he decides to cut his losses and leave. But turning the tables once more, so he leaves with the last laugh, as he goes on to say, "I gave your husband Superman before a few extra moments before time restarted, but I will grant you no such mercy," as he snaps his fingers and starts to play time as normally. And the reason why this is so detrimental and bad is because Jimmy Olsen and Banshee were about to get attacked and obliterated by a blast at that very moment, with Superwoman racing towards them. Unfortunately though, she is just not fast enough, as the blast seems to connect. Now it's unclear what exactly happens here, if Jimmy straight up dies or gets obliterated with this attack, but it will become clearer later on. What we know now though is it's not going to be pretty. And speaking of not pretty, we see Superman just losing control, still under the effects of the red kryptonite, which seems to give him uncontrollable rage. At certain moments, he just starts lashing out. But he tries to fight it, tries to regain control of his own body, his own powers, as best he can of course, which he is decently successful, but favor just isn't in his corner, as he is surrounded by all this chaos and war. The original Doomsday still loose in the city, and this Radiant monster trying to get revenge by any means. And so when Superman finally does see the Time Trapper materialize back, it restarts his rage all over again, as he rushes over grabbing him and just starts to wail on him, beating him to a pulp, which is exactly what the Time Trapper wants. He wants Superman to end him one final time so he can ascend and have full control over everything, become a full-on cosmic entity with godly power. Thankfully though, Metropolis is home to many different people and organizations, such as Supercorp, who currently is inhabited by Lex Luthor himself, which he is kind of a good guy now as he's lost his memories and on the side of the heroes. But with as intelligent as Lex Luthor is, he has seemingly come up with a plan to somehow put all this chaos behind them and them win. But he's going to need time, something that he might not have too much of. Because as we see a full overview of the city, everything is just in disarray. Superman fighting this future Time Trapper version of Doomsday, the Radiant, this very powerful alien from across the cosmos fighting the current Doomsday, and then the rest of the super family fighting this army that came to Earth. Even with Superwoman, Lois Lane, trying her best just to help the civilians out in Metropolis, still in pain and shock with whatever happened with Jimmy Olsen. Thankfully though, Lex seemed to have clutched up just in time, as he comes bearing arms, saying not only does he have a plan, but a way to execute it. But for this to work, they need to get Doomsday, Radiant, and his entire army away from any civilians. And of course, with Superman being smack dab right in the middle of the battle, they need to get him out and get him out fast, as Superwoman comes rushing and snatching him away, allowing Lex to now finally get a clear shot, as he aims his very powerful weapon and fires it at the battlefield, but not before the Time Trapper is able to use his powers over time to whisk himself away, saying, "This is only the beginning, time is on my side." As we find out what happened with this giant green energy beam blasting over the city, he used Brainiac tech to shrink them down and put them inside of a bottle, with him even saying, if Brainiac's bottle can hold Kryptonians, they can definitely hold a Doomsday. Which in a twist, Lex not only saved Superman and the city of Metropolis, but beat Doomsday in the process. Something that I would imagine the normal evil Lex Luthor would be dying to have this opportunity, to not only hold it over Superman's head, being the solution to a problem that even Superman couldn't seemingly fix. But there is a couple downsides in this plan of his, because as his little bottle using Brainiac's tech, time has slowed down inside of the city, so Radiant and his army are trapped in there and can't escape. Unfortunately though, as someone brings up, if they are inside of his little capsule still fighting, albeit very slowed since time is slowed, if Doomsday dies because of time slowing down, who knows what kind of powers he'd resurrect with. And this problem here grabs the attention of Superman and Superwoman because they exactly know what will happen in the form of the Time Trapper, so maybe this was the catalyst event that even formed him. Doomsday being defeated and dying to time itself, and so he evolves past that, which just goes to beg the question. If Doomsday can evolve not just past physical damage, but even concepts such as time, you know how crazy that is? Like the alien civilization who created Doomsday. They just created one of him, but imagine they created an army of monsters, creatures, able to transcend very concepts or fabrics of the universe, time, space, etc. Like that is just insane. Thankfully, there's only one, and for now, he's able to be contained, but as we will soon find out with Time Trapper, that won't be for long. And even though this is a problem in and of itself, there are still a few other things, mainly what happened to Jimmy Olsen. Because as you move over, he miraculously survived, but albeit very hurt, and potentially never the same. And even though technically this wasn't Lois' fault, Jimmy Olsen being hurt, directly at least, Lois still had some of the responsibility on herself, which she even feels guilty of. As when Clark comes to comfort her about this, she goes on to say, I treated these powers like it was all fun and games, but it's not. And Jimmy Olsen got hurt because of that. And it isn't just Lois herself who thinks she's responsible for this tragedy that happened, because the love interest of Jimmy Olsen, Silver Banshee at this time, also thinks so as well, as she comes barreling in, attacking them, yelling that this is all her fault. The man she loves is in a coma because he was trying to get a picture of them, which I mean, even just thinking about this rationally for a second, you know how crazy that sounds? But still, grief blinds people from logical thinking. And in this moment, Silver Banshee, isn't thinking logically at all. And being a former villain, anger, revenge, and fighting just comes second nature to her. As very funnily enough, she even goes on to say that she doesn't care who this new Superwoman is because, everybody doesn't know it's Lois Lane. But just know this. You have made your first arch enemy, which is kind of funny for a villain to declare themselves to the hero's face that, I'm your new arch enemy and you're going to be seeing me very soon. But still, this just adds problems after problem, with Lois even starting to put two and two together, saying this must be the start of what Time Trapper was warning us about. It wasn't Doomsday or the aftermath, it was about us. Do our choices bring this dark future he keeps talking about? For the first time in my life, I'm afraid of the future. Because potentially, depending on the choices they make now, it could set them up for a very displeasant future. Doomsday potentially becoming a full-on entity or lord over all time and space. And speaking of space, we move over across the universe where we see General Zod, as we find out a couple very interesting things. That even though Zod is a Kryptonian, his powers are completely gone. Why, you may ask? Well, as we find out, Lois Lane herself, during the events of the Absolute Power storyline, Lois Lane somehow switched powers and got General Zod's, meaning Zod, even though he's a Kryptonian, is completely powerless. With him being a spacefaring villain, if this word got out that General Zod, who by this point would have many enemies, is powerless and defenseless, he would pretty quickly be hunted down and destroyed. Him even killing his little alien assistant here, telling them that no one can know. Which again just leaves another plot thread of Zod coming for revenge against Superwoman to finally get his powers back. But now cutting even further away to the end of time itself, we see where Time Trapper moved off to. After the super duo Superman and Superwoman refuse his offer, he comes crawling back to talk to the future version of Superman, saying, "You were right, even your past self refused my offer. Do any of you even know what is at stake? Time is not written in stone here. We can still save it." And you might even say, well, this version of Doomsday seems very powerful. What does he have to fear? What is coming that even he can't change? And as we will find out, like always, it's Darkseid. As he continues saying, you will see how much worse things get once Darkseid returns, and then you will come crawling to me for help. But before he can finish saying his sentence, he is attacked, and whatever attacks him has to be very powerful, as it seemingly hurts him very bad. As he turns to this mysterious figure and says, "You, anyone but you." And this figure, or more so group as we will soon find out, goes on to say, "You messed up, Time Trapper. You tried to work with the wrong side, and now we will give you what you want. But first, I will rip from your mind everything you know about this Superman." As we see, is Darkseid's absolute legion. A team of beings from the absolute universe now here in the main DC universe, but albeit, in the future at the end of time. Now, we aren't exactly sure what they're doing here or who exactly these characters are, with one of them looking eerily similar to a version of Superman, but still, if they are here and have enough power to hurt this time trapper, that means Darkseid's return is potentially very soon, even bringing to pass what Time Trapper is scared of. Darkseid consuming yet another universe and making this one under his control, just like things are over in the absolute universe. But on this crazy cliffhanger and revelation, we will soon find out what happens here, but for now, this video and issue comes to a close. So it seems like Superman and Superwoman's life are about to get very more hectic, with so many different plot points coming to fruition very soon. But if you have enjoyed this video, leave a like, or subscribe if you're new and want to see more content just like this. Leave your thoughts about this and where this all could potentially be going all down below. As always, this is AJ here at the Hero Informer, and thank you for watching.